So, what is carbon? Why is it important, and why do we care about how it cycles throughout the atmosphere and through the rest of the Earth system, other than the fact that it actually does affect climate change? Well, first, before we can really get into carbon's role in climate change, we need to talk about what carbon is first. So, carbon. Whoops, technical issue there. Carbon. What is carbon? Well, carbon is the fourth most abundant element in the universe. So when we take a look at all the different elements that make up our universe, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, helium, and so on, carbon is ranked number 4 in terms of abundance. It is the building block of life. Everything, carbohydrates, fats, sugars, DNA, proteins, amino acids, cells, and all of that stuff, everything that makes life what it is made up of carbon. From fossil fuels and DNA, all the way to cell membranes, fats, proteins, and so on. Um, Carbon cycles through the land, through the ocean, through the atmosphere, and through the solid earth. Where can we find carbon? Well, one, we find carbon in all living things. That's one of the reasons why it is said that we are carbon based life forms, because carbon is our central thing. Everything that makes up who we are is made out of at least some carbon. Carbon is found in the atmosphere. Carbon is found in the geosphere as well, in layers of limestone on the ocean floor, trapped in mountains. Carbon can be found everywhere. And in fossil fuels like coal. Carbon is found in fossil fuels, which is one of the reasons why we call them fossil fuels. They are basically giant reservoirs of dead organic matter. Now, where is carbon? Carbon exists in the atmosphere, primarily in the forms of carbon dioxide and methane, in all living things in the form of glucose, in the form of amino acids, in the form of proteins, in the form of fats. In the soil, we see carbon in the soil, and we see carbon in our oceans in the form of dissolved carbon dioxide, carbonic acid, um, and most of that is in the deep ocean, but there is a good chunk in the surface ocean as well. Now, this table that I'm going to show you shows you where most carbon is found on Earth. And if you take a look, this right here shows you in terms of gigatons. And a gigaton is 1 billion tons. And you don't have to memorize this, but I do want to share that this number for the atmosphere is actually a little outdated. So the number here, this is from a 2013 paper, but many sources now put this at closer to 800 to 900 gigatons. So on a test or something like that, I'm not going to make you choose between 750, 800, 900. But I just want to bring that point that carbon in the atmosphere has continuously gone up. And that's been because of fossil fuel related emissions. So, a little bit about carbon on planet Earth. Carbon on planet Earth is said to be conserved. What this means is that the carbon that was present or that is present on Earth has been here since the very, very beginning, which is kind of cool when you think about it. Think about this, the carbon that makes you up has been here for 4.5 billion years. How cool is that? 4.5 billion years. Um, and that is the carbon that makes up all of us. So we are made up of carbon that's 4.5 billion years old on planet Earth. And that carbon came from somewhere else, which is really, really cool. The law of carbon conservation states that carbon does not increase or decrease globally. Um, what this means is that the carbon that is present on planet Earth is relatively stable in terms of amount. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down, it stays relatively stable. However, carbon is exchanged from one component of the Earth system to other components of the Earth system, such as between the atmosphere and the land, in the form of acid rain and chemical weathering, which we'll talk about when we talk about the long-term carbon cycle. Um, but carbon is exchanged between different components of the Earth system. Now, we'll talk about the Earth system in the next lesson.